Alright, what's good, everyone? This is another R&P conversation. We haven't done one of these in a while, but if you see the title down below, we had to do it because the gang is back. The gang is back. But yeah, if you can see the title down below, then you know, me and Steve, we seen with our group of friends, we seen Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2, and we're gonna give you kind of like a light breakdown of some of the scenes and stuff that we like the most. So this will be spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen it, don't watch it unless you want to be spoiled.
Also, if you didn't read the title, if you read the title and you still clicked on the video, you either seen it or you don't give a fuck. So.
Yeah, you bold. But yeah, so if you haven't seen the movie, feel free to click off the video and watch it again when you have seen it, because we're going to talk about some scenes, why we like some scenes, some comic connections for some of the scenes and characters, and overall what we think it might mean for the MCU going forward. So you've been warned. But if you haven't seen it, feel free to comment down below some of your theories. See it if you line up with us, or if you think we way off the mark or whatnot. Don't forget to hit that bell and that notification so you know when we drop some more videos, and subscribe if you like this video.
Yes, sir.
All right, Steve.
And make sure you ding that notification. No, just play.
All right, Steve. Let's get into it.
So first off, the send off to Chadwick in the very beginning. I think it was beautiful the way they did it.
They did it twice. They had two send offs in the beginning and in the end.
Yeah, two. Yeah. Oh yeah. That is true. But in the beginning, basically we see Shuri. She's like trying to figure out a way to create a synthetic heart-shaped herb that Killmonger burned up. And she was trying to make a synthetic one to save T'Challa because he had some unknown disease that he didn't tell anybody about, and he was dying. And it was basically the end, and she was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we're not sure.
And unfortunately, she couldn't.
Yeah, we're not sure how long he had the disease for, or how he got it. They never really specified that in the movie, but it was kind of like just to show a connection with T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman. If you haven't known, Chadwick Boseman died from cancer. And so it was kind of like to connect the two characters of, we're not going to recast T'Challa. T'Challa as we know it is going to die with Chadwick Boseman. That's kind of like a symbolic send-off for the actor stated. And yeah, so it seemed like Shuri was really distraught. It seems like they were dealing with this for a while. She was trying to figure out how to create the heart-shaped herb. Maybe it was the key to curing the illness or whatnot. We're not really sure on that. It comes into like a key point later in the story, obviously. But in terms of how that would have saved Chadwick or T'Challa from his disease, it never really specified. I don't think it was really ever obviously gonna, but it was kind of like, this will come into play later, but it's important that she failed. And
this is why this character is gone too. Like this is why you're not seeing this character, even though we all know why, but just given a story reason of why this character is no longer here, you won't be seeing it. And then T'Challa passed away. The beautiful, amazing, probably the love of my life, Angela Bassett, came in and let Shuri know what had happened. Well, technically the AI let her know, but she knew when Angela Bassett came in what it was. Yeah, that he was gone. And then that transitioned to a gorgeous funeral scene, which wasn't a traditional funeral that you may know of. It was I don't know how actual African funerals go, but it seemed like a celebration of life. It wasn't, people were all in white and people were dancing in the streets of Wakanda. And what else happened, Rick? I'm a little hazy because that was a week ago. So. What else happened?
They had the casket. They were carrying the Wakandan woman warrior group. The Dora Milaje, I think is their name.
Oh, good shit, Rick. Good shit. I can't even say that.
I might be wrong. It sounded nice, right? But
that sounded good though. That's what I'm saying. Like I couldn't even get that.
Yeah, they were carrying the casket of the king, and like you said, going through the streets dressed in white, very different from American funerals where It's not a mourning, but a celebration of the person's life. People were smiling, dancing. Kids were in the streets as they walked the casket through. As the music played, obviously the cast themselves had mournful faces, as this was, a person that they cared about both in and out of the script. And so
right.
it kind of showed that this was a very sorrowful moment, even if it was paraded in a kind of happy feel to show that we're celebrating this person's life. And they reveal the casket, which has the Black Panther mask and Wakandan, I guess, celebratory / salute symbol of the arms crossed over the casket and kind of like
beautiful design.
Yeah,
beautiful
engraved
design.
into the metal before a Wakandan ship comes over and lifts it into the air using kind of like an anti-gravity / tracking beam. And that kind of ends the funeral. I like that part. I like how they kind of show the connection that this character is dead. This character meant a lot to everybody. But at the end of the day, life goes on. Like, it wasn't like...
Right.
Like, it wasn't going to stop anything, per se.
It was like, this is the end of days. Like, we're done. Like, yeah, it wasn't like that. It was like, that's a fact.
Things move on. Angela Bassett's character is now queen again. And Wakanda has to kind of go onward. Like, their king is dead. The Black Panther, presumably, is the last Black Panther because Killmonger in the first movie burned the herbs.
Burned all the herbs, yeah.
And so they do not have their protector as the world knows it, but they are not weak. And they show that in a scene where a kind of like a paramilitary group tries to come in and steal vibranium from Wakanda during kind of like a UN meeting. And they bring the soldiers in kind of like hogtied and let them know that we've returned them alive this time, but Wakanda is not weak. Even if we've lost my son, a.k.a. the king of Wakanda, the protector in the Black Panther, Wakanda is not weak and will never be weak. So watch yourself.
And that was so gangster. How do you drop... They didn't kill the prison. They just dropped him off in front of the folks and was like, yo, here go your trash, man. Don't bring it back here, man. Like, that's basically what it was like. Take your trash, don't bring it back here, man. That's just so gangster.
So I was right.
Yeah, that's a fact. And the way they tricked them, acting like some of them was like scared scientists and whatever, and then got to thraxing the boys. Got to working the boys. They thought that was an easy dub. But so we see that part in the beginning. Again, Angela Bassett, fucking amazing. She deserves an award for the way she portrayed the queen. She's always portrayed the queen well, but this time she just was in her bag, man. She was in her bag. Some people were saying that type of performance black people only reserve for slave movies.
Hilarious.
She was in her bag, but
then we move on to full performance. But the thing is with the UN meeting, it kind of set the stage for the crux of the movie, which is Wakanda saying that if you want vibranium, you're not getting it from us. So if you really want it, you gotta find it somewhere else. Which is how the Atlanteans and i.e. Namor are brought into the scene without following too much of the movie. We're not trying to give a full scene by scene, but just kind of like kind of like scenes that matter to us and why we think they matter for the future and stuff like that. And so obviously the U.S. doesn't like to not have weapons, and so they kind of go on an expedition to find vibranium outside of Wakanda, and they do so with a device that's we later find out who makes it, but a device that is able to track vibranium throughout the world, and so
that was actually stolen. Like it was implied that they had help. But the device was actually
it wasn't
the concept
stolen.
Of the device was
it was created under false pretenses.
The idea of the device was stolen. That's what the character said.
Even then, that's not necessarily true either, and we could go into that later.
Okay.
And so, they find a vibranium deposit under the sea on a military ship, and while two scientists are going down there to check it out, they mysteriously disappear. And That kind of sets.
Oh no, it wasn't mysterious. They got packed.
For the movie purposes, it was mysterious. We didn't really know what was happening. All you seen was that their life support screens on the computer went flatline, and you heard a scream of the last female scientist before she also went quiet. And this kind of sets the stage of an Atlantean siege on the military ship. We see this as two Atlantean warriors pop their head up out the water, and one of the personnel who's guarding the ship kind of sees them, and then that kind of sets in place one of the other scenes that we kind of found interesting. If Steve wants to kind of give his idea on why it was so interesting.
So this part fucked me up, and I kind of lost hope. I'm not gonna lie, because the Atlanteans, or what? Well, you couldn't tell what they were. You could assume what they were at the time, but people started popping their heads up out of the water. Then you start hearing somewhat of a siren song, and motherfuckers start walking off the ship and basically killing themselves. And I'm like, these motherfuckers, if they can basically mind control people to kill them, to off themselves, what is Wakanda gonna do to get a get back on that? Because what do you do when somebody can just tell you, hey, walk off that bridge?
Yeah,
and you're gonna do it.
Even then, I think the writers even knew that was kind of like a crazy scenario, because it was very quickly resolved in terms of when the Wakandans was fighting the Atlanteans. It didn't become too much of a issue for them. It was one scene that they kind of showed that was similar to the military personnel walking into the water, but they quickly had a countermeasure of just putting the beads in their ears and they kind of stopped the hypnosis effects of the song, which I want to know how the Atlanteans were even able to do that in the first place, but they never say it in the movie. It's an interesting ability. I'm not sure if it comes from something that they learned, something that's based on them being in the water or anything like that. But I find it to be an interesting ability, and I guess it shows how long the Atlanteans had been around, because if you know any mythology in general, you know sirens, fish people usually have the ability to sing people to their demise, basically. So I thought that scene was cool.
Yeah, it was definitely giant. It kind of took my breath away a little bit. I was like, holy fuck! What do you do with that? Obviously, they had a quick response to it, but the initial was just pure shock. Then Rick, what happened after that?
It was just
not exactly that, but
it was just a bunch of the Atlanteans fighting, and then basically it cut to Namor approaching the Wakandans and letting them know that because of their decision, aka T'Challa's decision, to let the world know that Wakanda exists and the kind of technology they have, they've been looking for vibranium elsewhere, and they've encroached on my territory, my home. And if my people die, then your people die. And it kind of showed...
So basically either help me or I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah, and it kind of showed Namor's powers in a way, because he was able to enter Wakanda undetected. He approached the queen and the princess without anybody knowing, and even brought in the device that we find out was later made by Riri Williams onto their beach and say, bring me this scientist. For people who don't know, Riri Williams is Ironheart, kind of like the spiritual successor to Iron Man.
Black Queen.
And she's, in the comics at least, she is Tony Stark even basically gave her the seal of approval by sending an AI clone, ghost of himself, to assist her, and basically saying that you're probably the only person on this planet who's smart enough to be even a fraction of what I am, and so I'm here to help.
And then, and so we meet Riri through some very funny means. Koye and Shuri pay her a visit at her college and basically tell her, hey, you gotta come with us. Hey, you gotta come with us. That's your two choices. Come with us or come with us. We see some funny stuff. Some ashy jokes was thrown around. But eventually she ended up going with them, and that's how we got to I lost my train of thought. What the fuck, Rick? I'm sorry. I'm
That's fine. Basically, it becomes a mission to find Riri.
Not that's crazy.
To find her, and they do. And basically, they learn that she's a college student, a young college student. They thought the scientists would be older, and that kind of pushes the Wakandans to not be able to hand over the scientist to Namor, who they definitely know will kill her.
Because she's just a kid.
Yeah, because she's just a kid. And so that kind of sets it to the events the rest of the movie, where it's basically protect Riri from the Atlanteans, and in lieu of that, starting a war of Wakanda versus the Atlanteans. And in that war, we suffer another great casualty. The Queen of Wakanda, Angela Bassett's character, Queen, I think Rwanda's her name, or
I think it is.
It might be. I can look that up later, but we'll say that's what it is for now. And and she suffers a death at an Atlantean siege that was caused by getting Riri back from the Atlanteans and killing one of their own in the process. And with that, it kind of sets it to the events, the creation of the new current Black Panther of the MCU. So, but before we get into that part, I want to get your thoughts on it. How do you feel about the Black Panther of the MCU before we really go into how it came to be and everything like that? Like, did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you wish it was someone else or anything like that?
I was skeptical of this person possibly being it, but they showed me. They proved it to me, like, throughout the entire movie, from the beginning to end. From the first time we see him to the end, like, they proved to me that they were them. So yeah, I'm with it. I'm happy.
I also felt the same way. And after we explain how they get their abilities and stuff, I can say kind of like my thoughts on it. But it was a great variation of the Black Panther. It was very different than the Black Panther of old. Wasn't like a clean copy. Wasn't like a oh well, we've seen this before type of deal. This was I think a new breath of fresh air into the Black Panther mantle that I think it really needed.
They made it their own for sure. They made it their own. And Rick, this is one thing that I forgot. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. Namor's initial proposal, right? His initial proposal, well, not the initial because he was just talking shit, but when he was talking to Shuri and he was just explaining what it was, I'm not gonna lie, he was spitting because basically Namor explained to Shuri that, like Rick basically told us, the Atlanteans are vulnerable now because of the decision that T'Challa made in the first movie or in Civil War and stuff like that to make Wakanda more public. And his point was, you guys are the strongest nation in the world. We literally control the oceans. If we decided to work together, nobody could do nothing with us. And he was right. And he was kind of saying it would be no more slavery. It would be no more like people conquering other people's cities or anything, or countries or anything like that, because it would just be us. And I was just like, he's not wrong. Is it an aggressive thing to do? Is it wrong in the sense of morality? Yes. Is his statement wrong? No. I just wanted to know what you thought about that. On that.
I feel like with the idea of Namor being, and this is the other thing to take into account, Namor named himself the first mutant. He was born in AD 557.
15 something.
Yeah, so he was old. He was the first mutant born of an Aztec tribe that ate basically the water equivalent to the heart herb of Wakanda, and all gained abilities on par with a Black Panther, kind of, right? And I would say, being as old as he was, and they even showed in the movie kind of his interaction with the surface world at a young age, he's seen the world. He's had the chance to see the world over long periods of time from every kind of like iteration that the world has been up until the present, and he's never stepped into the light at any other point in time where atrocities were being done to people who were the descendant of his people, very reminiscent of Wakanda. So at that point, you got to put into perspective of while his statements made sense, from the viewpoint that he had, it was very childish. It was very like if you really wanted the surface world to change or to, I guess, hold you into an esteem of your people should be safe and not bothered, then you've had ample time to do so. You've had multiple centuries to stake your claim and show the world that you are not to be trifled with, and that you're not weak by any means, right?
And why didn't you do this 100, 200, 300, however many years ago? You could have been said that. The only reason you saying it now is because your livelihood is at jeopardy. Mm-hmm. I get that part. I do get that part. I definitely get that part. It just, my thing more so was like, okay, that may be the case, but he's still not wrong. It would be the ultimate get back for everything. It would kind of make everything else forgivable because it's the ultimate get back, and they wouldn't have been expecting it. But that was just me. And maybe I'm just too like angry and militant because that's not the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But if I was Shuri during that conversation, I'd be like, let me talk to my mama real quick. That would have been the only thing I didn't like about his proposal was how he always went back to, if you don't, I'ma just fuck you up. That's not how you get somebody to pull up with you. You don't say, hey man, that's like if I was like, yo Rick, we about to do this job, right? But if you don't help me with it, I'm gonna knock your ass out. I'm probably not gonna get you to help me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
but
you
at
probably
the same
like,
time,
okay.
The Wakandans had seen a person like Namor in power before. He was the Atlantean version of Killmonger. He wasn't something that they wanted to deal with again. They weren't something that they wanted to work with again. It was it was kind of like a blast from the past. And so I didn't see any world or realm of possibility where the Wakandans sided with the Atlanteans. Even if they did give up Riri as a sacrifice, I just couldn't see them still working with them after that fact.
I feel you. I understand that. But I just wanted to get, that's what I lost my train of thought on. But we can keep it going. That's my bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And then with the death of Angela Bassett's character, the Queen Rwanda, we see that
fish fry. Yeah, fry him up.
We see that Shuri basically has a breakthrough, and she's able to complete the heart herb. And in doing so,
through a gift from Namor, I might add.
It was even then. I feel like that's not.
Well, partially it helped it.
It made sense because that's why. Because the heart herb and the herb that the Atlanteans used to turn into what they are now were of similar genetic codes, so she was able to use a piece of that and basically recreate it to create the heart herb once again. And in doing so, she takes it and undergoes a transformation and becomes a Black Panther. But in doing so, if you remember from the first movie, where they show T'Challa taking the herb the second time and entering the ancestral plane to talk to his ancestors, Shuri also does such. She thought she would either see maybe her brother or her mother who had just recently passed, but in her vision, she sees someone she did not expect, but someone who, in all honesty, should be there, Killmonger. How did you feel about Michael B. Jordan's return in the Black Panther 2? Did you think it was going to happen?
I didn't think. Well, I wanted it to happen. You see, but I didn't think
you probably didn't want it that way.
No, not that way. No, I wanted it more of a like, we need somebody at the moment. Is there any way we could bring him back? But then that wouldn't have made sense because then it's like, well, just bring T'Challa back if you could do that. You see what I'm saying? So I guess that was just the best way to. I don't want to say it was fan service, but it was fan. So you see what I'm saying? Like seeing him, because I know I wanted to see him in some capacity. Maybe not necessarily that, but it got the job done. And it was so cold. It was so cold how they just panned around. And I was like, is it her mom? I honestly, Rick, I thought it was going to be Namor's mom. Because it was a different thing. I thought, but I was like, but Namor's mom ain't had no lines. So, like, it would be weird for her to just start talking now.
Yeah, she didn't have any lines.
Yeah, she didn't have no lines. Like, we just seen her. So, like, for her to just be like, hey, like, try to drop some knowledge out of nowhere, it would be like, okay. Like and I don't know.
My son is not the Batman.
Yeah, like, something like that. I'd be like, that didn't kill my mom. He's getting fried up. Like, we're about to cook him. But I think making him Killmonger was probably the best way to keep Shuri on the path she was on, so she could figure it out herself. Because as much as she like was feeling that anger, I think seeing him woke her up to the fact like, damn, I can't go this hard. I think, and that's what probably caused her to make certain decisions she made later on.
No, I feel like what you think, I feel like seeing him solidified how she felt. She knew how angry she was. I think she probably didn't realize how angry she was, and I think seeing him was, I don't think it was the thing that made her make her opposite decisions. I think it was the thing that drove. I think she would have made the decision she would have made regardless of seeing Killmonger or not. I think her behavior up until she made the decision to spare Namor and the Atlanteans was because of Killmonger. If she didn't see Killmonger there, she would have been, I feel like, a carbon copy of T'Challa, which is why they had her meet Killmonger at that moment instead of seeing her mother or her brother or anything like that, or even her father. I think
I was gonna say Pop Dukes too.
I think seeing Killmonger showed just how different Shuri was from her family, which she's always shown in like the interactions. Like, she's always been more new age, more modern, more. Even
in this movie specifically, like some of the stuff she would say, she'd be like Angela Bassett would be telling her about customs and culture. She'd be like, "That's old fashioned." Like,
So it already showed that she had a penchant for just being outside of the box, being more modern than Wakanda, being able to see outside of traditions for more logical or just improvement purposes, right? And I think Killmonger is the best example of that in her family line. A person who was forced to live outside of his traditional. He lost his culture with the death of his father. He only knew stories of Wakanda. He never seen it. He wasn't permitted to go there because obviously he couldn't get there. They didn't know he existed, and so he was forced to live his life outside looking in. And so it was kind of how maybe Shuri felt growing up. Like, she felt like she was maybe different than her family. She thought differently than her family, and that was, I feel like, kind of like cementing that point. But it also showed that she wasn't like Killmonger in the way, like, she wasn't as angry and as upset and as I guess vindictive as he was, because she in the time where she could have killed Namor and I guess doomed her nation to be in an eternal war with the Atlanteans, she decided peace was the better option. Where
Killmonger probably would have killed him. Not probably. He would have burned everything.
It wouldn't have been probably. He would have slit Namor's throat.
Yeah. As soon as he would have got the upper hand, Namor would have been dead. Yeah. It wouldn't have been. I don't even think the fight would have lasted as long. Because as soon as he would have been able to, he would have packed him, I think. And then that would have been it. And he was like, "That's what I do." You're like, Killmonger, just come on, man. Just show a little respect. But but we touched on it a little bit. We kind of already said it, but Shuri and the rest of Wakanda hatch a plan, which kind of lures the Atlanteans into basically the middle of the ocean, or where? The middle of the ocean, and that frees up Shuri to kind of get Namor to the desert where they shoot the ones, and it looked like Namor was about to finish it up, and Shuri said, "I'm her." That was it. I'm
hurt. Yeah, through culmination of Shuri creating new armor for the Dora Milaje, and Riri getting resources from the Wakandans to create her first prototype of the Iron Man suit fully in vibranium, making it already better than a lot of Iron Man's prototypes.
Iron Man never had that.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a large scale battle. There wasn't too many casualties of any known characters in that battle. And so it's kind of like, I guess, honestly, the fight between the Atlantean soldiers and the Wakandan soldiers I wouldn't say unnecessary, but it wasn't, like, I guess, important at all.
It looked cool, though.
Yeah, it did. Because it introduced the armors, like I said, and showing Riri.
Just how it was shot, too. Like, just, like, on the ship and under the water. Like, it was shot beautifully. Yeah. But that's just Ryan Coogler being the GOAT that he is, basically.
Yeah, but they learned that Namor gets his strength from being in the water. And so the more water he's submerged in, the stronger he is and whatnot. And so she's able to create a countermeasure. It comes to a point of it seems like he's winning or will win, and she gets the upper hand and decides, like we said before, spare his life. And that kind of ends the movie in terms of the main plot. Riri's return back to the United States. She can't keep her armor because it's vibranium, obviously.
But she got her car fixed that was destroyed earlier.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. But yeah, so she got her car fixed. The
whip was nice though, Rick. The whip was nice.
And then at that point, it kind of goes back to a moment in the beginning of the movie where Angela Bassett's character is explaining to Shuri that she has to basically let go of all the sorrow and grief that she has for the passing of her brother, and she finally is able to complete that ritual. It shows that she's accepted that while some things are based in tradition, that doesn't have to be. That doesn't mean all things based in tradition have no meaning or have no importance, and she kind of accepts this Wakandan ritual of burning her funeral garbs. And she finally lets go of her sorrow for her brother. She sees Chadwick Boseman, aka T'Challa, in multitude of scenes that he had, and it ends with her crying and kind of like letting go. I feel like that scene, the only thing that scene was missing is it should have had mixed scenes of both T'Challa and the Queen, but since only one of those people were dead in real life, I understood why they did it the way they did.
Yeah, it was more so for Chadwick. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And you want to tell the people what that scene also had?
And then what is Lupita's character name again?
Nakia.
Nakia, right? So Lupita Nyong'o's character Nakia seen Shuri. Well, Shuri met up with her first anyway.
You don't have to explain that part. You can just go right into it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So Nakia sees Shuri. She walks up to her, and she says, "I have something to show you or tell you." And we see a little boy. We see a little boy who we saw earlier in the beginning, but it was brief, so you don't really remember. We see a little boy. He walks up with Nakia. They sit down, and Shuri's like, "Well, who are you?" And he says his name, and she's like, "Okay." She's like, "Okay, cool. Like, why are you?" Basically, kind of looking like, "Why are you showing me this kid?" And the little boy says, basically, "T'Challa is my dad." And I freaked out. I think Rick freaked out too. I think we both freaked out at that moment, because it was just so beautifully done. Mm-hmm. It wasn't over the top.
Well, there was a secondary thing of why I was going crazy to that. Well, technically I learned about it later, but the introduction of T'Challa the second,
right?
But his Haitian name, Tosin, is actually a character in the Marvel universe. He's a Wakandan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a Wakandan warrior who, through the use of vibranium tattoos, is able to use vibranium in a way never before seen. It was more of a traditional route of the Black Panthers of old, and learned through martial arts, Wakandan martial arts, and basically psychic abilities. And is currently the new protector of Wakanda.
I did not know that. I didn't know that. I was just freaking out because it was T'Challa the second.
Yeah,
that's why I was going crazy. But
yeah.
that adds a whole new thing to it because I did not know.
Well, usually Tosin is not the son of T'Challa, so they kind of like remixed it.
He just his own character most of the time.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's still dope. That's dope. But that's what Marvel been doing. They take little bits and pieces from the comics and they throw it into their universe to make. Yeah, they remix it to make it their own. Like MJ is not Mary Jane, but she's still MJ. All that cute stuff that they do. But that moment was so like, man, like that touched my little fat heart, man. I can't even lie. Like it was so beautiful, and it gave us like, I don't know how long the MCU plans on going, but it gave us like hope. Like, not that Shuri isn't a capable Black Panther, because she is, but it gave us like at some point we may get T'Challa back. It's not gonna be Chadwick Boseman, but we're getting T'Challa back at some point if the MCU continues that far. Because the kid, he's like 7 or 8, he a little guy, but a decade from now he a teenager. You see what I'm saying? So, who knows what we could get in the future, and I think the MCU at least got another decade in them. And that was it. The whole movie was just beautiful. Like we said before, 9.5 out of 10. Rick, what did you think about the reveal though? Like all together, besides the little gem you just dropped on us.
Yeah, I figured it was gonna be something like that. It was kind of nice that they did it in this movie. I thought maybe would have been a movie like after this one, Black Panther 3 or something like that. But it was great that they had that, and there was even a small scene where the Queen met her grandson. She might have not known that it was her grandson at the time, but they did have an interaction, so it wasn't like you felt like, oh damn, I wish the Queen could have met him before she died or anything like that. So that was nice.
Because she knew about him.
Yeah. So all in all, the reveal was everything I expected it to be, but they did do it in a way that I did not expect. And so it again, Marvel met my expectations and exceeded them, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the movie.
Also, side note, I don't know how exactly true this is, but apparently Marvel and Ryan Coogler have planned, Marvel and Disney with the help of Ryan Coogler have planned multiple future Disney Plus Wakanda-based shows involving like just different people in Wakanda. Multiple, they said. And they're all going to be going through Ryan Coogler's production company.
Oh, nice.
So everything, it's basically Ryan Coogler basically gonna have his own universe in the MCU basically.
Nice.
That's what they said. I don't know how far they're gonna go with it, but I like the more black people getting high profile jobs. That sounds great to me. Yeah. And I think it's gonna be good TV. We get to learn more about Wakanda. We get to learn about stuff that happens in Wakanda, like politics in Wakanda, because we still haven't really done that a lot. Because most of the time is Wakanda having to beef somebody coming from outside. Maybe we'll start to see more like inside stuff, like just the day to day. Because I know everything ain't just rainbows all the time. There's probably something going on in Wakanda that shouldn't be, and we about to find out. But Rick, the biggest thing, shout out to Ryan fucking Coogler, man. That motherfucker don't miss. that motherfucker don't miss.
It seems like he's hitting all of his cues. I really appreciate the consistency of his work, and I'm happy that he had his hands on this project, which I don't think he originally was, but I'm happy that if that wasn't the case, that they made the decision, and all in all, I'm excited for the future of Black Panther and R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. I'm gonna let Rick close this out, man.
All right, everybody. This has been another R&P conversation. We hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know if you agreed or disagreed with any of the points we made about this movie. I know a lot of people have been calling this lackluster, and taking all the L's
crying
and putting them in front of the Black and Panther. But it was a really good movie. Like we said, great world building, great character interaction. So let us know if you agreed or if you really did.
Character development, all that shit.
If you thought it was mid, let us know down below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, subscribe, and at the end of the day, we love you guys.
We love you guys. Peace.
And watch us on Spotify, please.